announcing he plans to designate Antifa as a terror organization, as Attorney General Barr points to the far-left group as responsible for stoking violence at protests across America, saying, quote, "The voices of peaceful and legitimate protests have been hijacked by violent radical elements. Groups of outside radicals and agitators are exploiting the situation to pursue their own separate, violent, and extremist agenda. The violence instigated and carried out by Antifa and other similar groups in connection with the rioting is domestic terrorism and will be treated accordingly," the words of the Attorney General. In the meantime, Andy McCarthy right there joins us, former Assistant U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, a Fox News contributor. Andy, good morning.
Morning, Ed.
I want to get to what you think we should do about it, but let's start simply with what Antifa is. You write that it's got this European pedigree, goes back to the self-described anti-fascist movements of the 1920s, but they end up causing a lot of chaos themselves, as they claim to be anti-fascist, and there are many who believe they're behind some of these violent protests. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I think they are a terrorist organization, Ed, but while the name has a European pedigree, the group as it operates here, which is a loosely knit sort of association, is a domestic organization. And therefore, when we talk about designating it, it's really not a relevant conversation under U.S. law, because our formal designation process is only for foreign terrorist organizations. We don't need a designation when a group is operating domestically, because we have an array of laws to deal with terrorists. So, you know, you can designate them kumquats if you want. The important thing is how you treat them. They're a terrorist organization. They should be treated like a terrorist organization.
So very direct in what you're saying, because there are existing laws on the books. You actually prosecuted terrorists when you're inside the Justice Department. So our viewers are watching this chaos, and I bet some, including me, are wondering, why is it not being stopped in a lot of these localities when, in fact, we have these laws on the books? What would you suggest be done to crack down finally?
Well, I think, Ed, there's two tracks that have to be pursued, and both of them have become more difficult because of the passivity of the federal and state authorities. I'm not saying that they're not reacting at all, but they've been too slow to react, hoping that this would kind of burn itself or exhaust itself, and that's not going to happen. It doesn't happen. So on the law enforcement track, you have to prosecute them, and as I said, we have a large array. I prosecuted terrorists in the 90s for waging war against the United States. There's a statute that deals with that. For an interstate group like Antifa, you can use the racketeering laws. As the Attorney General said, there's laws against rioting. There's a lot of laws that we can use. But law enforcement by itself cannot restore order. And under the Constitution, this is not like in the discretion of the president. The president has an obligation to protect the states from insurrection and domestic violence.
Yeah.
So that has to be done, including deploying the armed forces to the extent that that's necessary in places where you have such unrest that that's the only possible alternative. Law enforcement can't accomplish that.
So to be clear, you know, local police obviously have to do their jobs. There are governors who are calling in the National Guard. But you write very directly, the president has the constitutional power to restore order. He must act. In the last 30 seconds, what then, as the president later this morning is going behind closed doors with the Attorney General William Barr, what must they do after that meeting?
I think they have to have a plan for, first and foremost, restoring order. We owe that not only to peaceful people, we owe it to peaceful protesters. But it's got to be done. It's the first obligation of the government is to restore order. And then you convey that the laws will be enforced. And I think it's important for the president and the attorney general to continue making that clear.
Andy McCarthy, appreciate your insights this morning. Thank you.